Flashes and Cool Topics, a podcast for women in midlife and beyond. At Hot Flashes and Cool Topics, we talk about anything and everything to do with midlife. My name is Colleen.
My name is Bridget.
And today we have on Carla Hall. And you'll recognize the name because she was on The Chew. She is on Food Network. She is a celebrity chef, TV personality. She's an author. But we just absolutely had the best time talking to her. It just was a pleasure.
It was I told her my mother loved watching The Chew, and she particularly loved Carla Hall on The Chew
Mhm.
because it's just her personality and everything that comes through, and her sincerity and her energy. It's just we had so much fun talking to her and laughing with her. I just felt like I knew her, and she's just so easy to talk to, and just so many things that she does. So you'll hear about her podcast, Say Yes, and you'll find out how that inspires her, and just all about everything.
We
Everything.
covered the gamut from her getting her degree in accounting, if you can believe it,
Yes.
to modeling, to going to culinary school, to her time on the, Top Chef, and then being a judge, and just to the Chew. I mean, she is multidimensional and does
Hmm.
so many things. She's always busy. And we talked to her about menopause and
Hmm.
hormones. I mean, we really could have talked to her forever, but I kind of started feeling bad like we were
Yeah, we were
taking
taking so much of her time up. We'd love to have her back on. I
Oh my
mean,
gosh, yes.
because
She's a
yeah,
woman who just doesn't stop. And
right.
her mantra is say yes, adventure follows, then growth. And that really does define her.
Hmm.
Like she just
Hmm.
says yes to adventure and learns from it and isn't afraid to say no to stuff, which we want women in midlife to kind of take that mantra and run with it. Say
Hmm.
yes,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
you never
And
know. Go ahead.
yeah, you just don't know where it's going to lead you. You might end up really liking something, or it might just be a hobby, or you just might say, yeah, I tried that. Okay, I'm gonna try something else now.
And
It's
that's what she talks about. It could be a
hmm
hobby, it could be a career. It doesn't have to be a life-changing decision. Just say yes to some adventure. I mean, Bridget and I hadn't said yes to starting a podcast. We certainly wouldn't have been talking to Carla Hall. So
no,
there
I never
you
would have
go.
dreamed I've been talking to Carla Hall. Yeah, because I certainly would never have been on any of those shows. Or definitely maybe the worst
Yeah, I don't
cooks,
think
but
either
not
one of
Top
us.
Chef. Not Top Chef.
And she does talk about how much work is involved in the worst cooks of America. It's a lot more work than we realize.
Yes, yes, yeah. I feel like people don't realize how much work people are put forth to do these shows, and it's not all,
Fun
glamour
and
and everything like
games,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I
Well,
just, I love watching her on the Food Network. So I had to ask her about because we're taping this in January, and I was watching her constantly on the holiday bake-offs. I just love how
oh,
she's so expressive that you can tell
mhm.
whether she likes something or not just when she's eating it. You know?
And
Just
just to hear her thoughts on, oh my gosh, that was so funny what she says, and because you always wonder what's going through their heads, and
Mhm.
and she shared some of that, so that's great. That
So
is.
we are going to start the conversation, and you guys are really going to enjoy it. We'll talk to you after it. Welcome back to Hot Flashes and Cool Topics, everybody. Today we have a great guest, Carla Hall, on. You may recognize her from The Chew. And she's also, I love the fact that you started out as an accountant and now you're a celebrity chef. Like, talk about a 180. We always love talking about women who do 180s, and it's
Thank
great. So, welcome, Carla.
It is so great to be here. I mean, the name says it all. Come on.
Thank you.
We get that a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, you are a fellow Tennessean or formerly Tennessean, so we are excited, and you're actually back here right now while we're talking to you. So we're happy you're here. So I have loved, because we're taping this right after Christmas, I have loved watching the holiday bake-offs and you as judge. So I'm going to start off by saying, what is it like to judge the holiday bake-off championship on Food Network?
Okay, so the first episode, when all of the bakers are there, it's really hard. And
Oh,
because you're eating desserts from everybody, and there's a quick bake, and then there's a longer bake. So that means there's double of everything. And that's really hard. However, I will eat it all because they have spent the time to make it. So I will eat it. It gets a lot easier at the end. I go in thinking, okay, okay, 18 bites. And
Oh
and
my
and and
gosh.
when you think about it, a bite is small, but when you think 18 bites, how many bites do you take of a single plate?
Right.
Right?
Right.
That's all
Probably
dessert.
not 18 because you
Oh my
shovel a
goodness.
dessert.
Oh
Yeah.
my.
Wow.
Yeah, that is a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and
And
then you have
and
to process it.
Oh yeah. Then you have to think about how does this, yeah, taste?
has
What do
there
I
ever
think
been
about it?
one where you've just been, I have nothing good to say about this at all?
Y- Yes. But you know what? You I had something and it was lemon and peppermint and something else and I'm like, okay, why are these feeling familiar, these flavors? And I'm like, oh, a cough drop. Okay, this is not good. I mean, the this Ricola.
Right.
This, you should not be thinking cough drop and dessert together,
Right.
right?
Because I love lemon, I love peppermint, but not
Yes.
together. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Because I watch you guys taste and I just kind of obsess over, I can kind of tell where you're like, okay, those don't really go together.
But you know what? When you see me pause, I am always thinking, what is the constructed or the constructive criticism,
Right.
right? Because you
Mhm,
want people to learn from it. You can't just say it's not good. That's not helpful.
mhm,
So, you have to go through this process of what can they learn from this moment?
mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now with co-hosting Worst Cooks in America, you're getting a lot more.
Oh my God. Okay, okay, okay. Okay, forget Ricola. I would love Ricola. 'Cause I was like, just give me something good. I honestly, I have to say, and I was telling Ann this, I hadn't really watched the show. I knew about the show, and then when I watched it, I'm like, that can't be real. When I got there, I felt like I was being punked. I'm like, this is not real. And I'm looking at Anne and she's like, "It's real." I'm like, "I need a hug." You did not prep me well enough to experience this.
Oh goodness.
That's
Oh
amazing, but it
man.
makes for good television.
It
It's
does.
funny. It's
It does.
hilarious.
And it kind of makes you feel better about your own cooking abilities.
Okay, you're
Oh,
welcome. You're welcome.
especially you. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how you can even connect with that, being like this really good, great cook. And then I just don't even know how you can make a connection.
A lot of
That would be
patience,
really
maybe.
hard.
Well, the thing is
Yes.
you don't know how low you have to go. You don't know where the par is, right?
Right.
So when I
Yeah.
had to teach someone how to use a manual can opener, I'm like, okay, we're here. We're here. And
Oh
because they
goodness.
didn't know how, and his hands, sweet little Joey, his hands, he didn't have the dexterity to use a peeler. So that's
Oh
where we
my.
were. I'm like, that is ground level. And so I'm like, okay, all right. Okay, that's where we are.
Oh my gosh. You know,
Oh goodness.
going back on, you know, you started off as an accountant or you studied at Howard University as an accountant. Can you talk about the
Right.
journey from CPA to chef? Because that is a 180.
It's a 180. And I feel like I keep doing those. And when people say what's next, I'm like race car driving. Just grab something. I really wanted to do theater and I didn't do theater and I liked my accounting teacher in high school. So I was like, okay, accounting when I went to school. My mother was happy. I was just crazy. And then I hated accounting, so I left and I was doing fashion shows at Howard. So I then met these girls who were modeling and then they went to Paris. I'm like, okay, that sounds great. Let me go there. It's actually in Paris where we were hanging out in kitchens with models and they were having the Sunday suppers. And that's when I really fell in love with the idea of cooking. So read idea of cooking. I wasn't cooking up to this point. And I started buying cookbooks and just practicing. That's why I really relate to the home cook. I really relate to people getting into the kitchen because I love experiments. I love the science of cooking. And
Hmm.
so when you have those instructions, which is a recipe, and you have a picture, you're like, okay, that's where I'm trying to go. So when you think about cooking and numbers and accounting,
Hmm.
mhm,
That enjoy math,
right.
but it is something to put together. And when you said it's a science, I'm a former elementary school teacher, and
Mm,
one way that I would try to incorporate science, especially kindergarten, is we would do a cooking thing. And I would
yes.
say, when you mix these things, things change, because you're doing these different mixtures of different, just, I don't even know the word, elements, compounds, things go
Right.
together. But it is a
Mhm.
science, and that is a neat thing about cooking too.
One of the things that we really like to highlight on the show are women who pivot in midlife and are not afraid to make changes. So the fact that you started cooking really in your 30s and you're on the chew at 44 and now you're doing all this amazing stuff, could you have any words of wisdom or advice for women who are kind of afraid to take that leap?
Yeah, my grandmother said to me, "It is your job to be happy, not to be rich." So in my head, I was always sort of chasing that happiness and good, bad, or indifferent. That was the thing. I thought it was my due. So to put things into perspective, I went to culinary school at 30. I did Top Chef at 44. I was on the chew by 48. Um, and we did that for 7 years. I'm 57 now, and I'm still thinking, what's my next chapter? And I think you have to have a lot of support around you. I would have never done the chew because I was living in New York. I mean, I was living in DC, and then the job was in New York without the support of my husband because I had to leave during the week and then, I was coming back home. So there's that, just having that support. Also, I don't know if you know Enneagrams, so I'm a 7,
Oh, okay. I
the
haven't done mine, but I've
adventurer.
heard of it. Okay, the adventurer. Okay. Hmm.
And my mind is always thinking, what is the next thing? But I don't want to say I get bored easily because I can do something like biscuits all the time, but I'm constantly tweaking and looking for that thing. Um, so I think it's when you have a desire or a love of something, even if you're moonlighting in it,
Hmm.
it is your job to help your soul do that thing. And the universe is going to say, okay, I'm pushing you toward that thing to do more of it or pulling away. So it's just a hobby. But I think people are afraid to even take that step. You don't have to really commit to the whole thing, just commit to a part of it and to that little kernel of happiness and joy that you get from it.
Hmm.
That
Yeah,
is such.
I agree. Yeah, because some people want to go all in and be a perfectionist,
Hmm.
and then they give up.
Right.
And yeah, I agree. And the support thing is so important because I can see for so many people, I don't know whatever it might be in their family or people naysayers that come in and just say,
Yes.
"Oh, you shouldn't do that right now. You're too old to do that." And so I think that's such great encouragement for our listeners to hear that because you are never too old. And on top of
Mm.
that, you have cookbooks. You have these great cookbooks. So how did all of that come about with the cookbooks?
So my first cookbook I did, it came out in 2011. So that was the year also the Chew had started. I'd been working on it since 2010. I didn't even think that I should do a cookbook, because like, what do I have to teach people? But then I looked at that cookbook sort of as a journal and my journey from growing up in Nashville and then working as a caterer. I'm a recovered caterer, thank the baby Jesus. And then being on the Chew, so and then about Top Chef, and so that came about. And then after I did that book, I started thinking about the next one. Like, oh, this is what I really want to say. And that was this book about traveling everywhere and the similarities of culture and taking an ingredient and looking at it from the perspective of different cultures. Like, what does spinach look like If I'm in the South, what does spinach look like? If you're in India, what does spinach look like? If you're in Jamaica, and taking an ingredient. And so it was about comfort food, but favorite dishes from around the world. And then I think my latest cookbook, Carla Hall's Soul Food Every Day in Celebration, that is probably the most personal book that I've done. And it was about traveling through the South and really looking at the South with a fresh new set of eyes because, you're Southern and you don't really think about what you like, why you like it, how the food came to be. And I use the idea of my great, 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 great grandmother came from West Africa today, how would she be eating here? And it's a totally different way and it's a healthier way to eat. So
Mhm.
I really took that into consideration, but also honoring the soul food and the celebration dishes because they can live in the same space
Mhm.
rather than saying it's and. But I'm not going to have soul food and celebration dishes, well, celebration soul food all the time.
Mhm. No,
Right,
yeah,
because you
yeah.
you talk about the fact that you're not going to eat mac and cheese and fried chicken every single day, that it's a celebration food.
Right, because
And
you will die.
Yeah, yeah. It is delicious, but
Not to
yeah,
be
not your
dramatic.
yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, well, it's true. Not everybody, well,
Your
some
arteries,
people
yeah.
do. And the
Yeah.
Yeah.
biscuits are
Oh,
great, but you can't eat the biscuits morning, noon, and night. I wish you
yeah.
could.
Yeah.
Exactly. But the thing is, they lose their luster if you're having it every
Right.
day. And also, I don't want a healthy mac and cheese. Quite frankly, I don't. So when I
Mhm.
eat mac and cheese, I want it. I want all the fat, all the cheese. I want all the things, right? But
Mhm.
if I really think about it, I only have mac and cheese, and not to regulate everybody else. I probably only eat it 4 times a year.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm. So if you it's your
Moderation.
celebration food, and if you want it, it's going to be really good. And
Right.
I do that, back when I used to go to restaurants. I would say, okay, I'm here. I'm at this delicious place. I'm going to have the good thing.
Yes.
It's
Right.
important. It is important to watch what you eat and for your health and for everything. But yes, I completely agree and love that outlook, on that. And I don't want to have to be good all the time, you know?
Right,
Right.
right.
Exactly.
But think
Yeah.
about that. I mean, think about the responsibility of restaurants and how we're
Oh,
changing the
yeah.
way that we're eating. And I think when we looked at restaurants, in the past, it was all about celebration. So that food should be celebration foods. But now we eat out all the time. And
Right.
so the responsibility of chefs and restaurateurs is to actually have some of the everyday dishes on the menu so that you can go out and still get something that is not going to be detrimental to your health.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's hard to
Yeah.
do.
And you do see that a
Mhm.
lot. It's hard to do. And I always, when I would go to restaurants, if I'd go with somebody uh, that maybe, I don't know, they would say, well, I'm being bad. I'm being bad. I'm like, you're not being bad. You're
No.
just eating.
Right, right. Give yourself permission to eat it. My mother was eating a hot dog the other day. And my mother preaches healthy food, healthy food. I mean, she was a nurse, so she's like, "Oh, I'm eating my veggies. I'm eating veggies." So she's grabbing this hot dog so she tells me that this hot dog that's in the freezer because she doesn't eat them all the time, so she doesn't want them to go bad. I'm like, "Mama, enjoy the hot dog. I love a good
Right.
hot dog too. Enjoy the hot dog. If you're gonna
Mhm.
eat it, it is better if you have a healthy attitude around the thing than to feel guilty about the thing. If you feel guilty about the food, it will honestly I feel like it attacks your body differently. I was talking to somebody because I started working out after this whole COVID thing. I started, on this like a meal plan. But I also cheat. My husband's looking at me with side eye when I'm eating the Girl Scout cookies. I'm like, but I'm eating these out of joy. So they are not
Mhm.
attacking my body. I am I am enjoying. I appreciate the Girl Scouts. I appreciate everybody that had anything to do with this cookie being in front of me right now.
It's a celebration.
It's a
It is a
celebration.
celebration.
Yes, absolutely.
And when you're in lockdown, it's so hard to be good because there's not a lot to do. But we have heard of some people saying, okay, this is going to be my health year, or this is the year I'm going to take care of myself and I'm going
Mhm.
to exercise. And so, but you have to have a little bit. It's not, I don't even like using the word cheat. It's just you
Mhm.
have to enjoy a
Like
little bit.
enjoy.